Donald Trump's already dark view of migrants, well, it is getting even darker in the closing days of this election. Yesterday in Wisconsin, he spewed racist lies about immigrants and attacked Vice President Harris on the heels of her trip to the U.S.-Mexico border. He then continued the tirade online, where he claimed migrants are causing, quote, havoc in Wisconsin. No evidence to support that fear-mongering. Joining us now, Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett of the U.S. Virgin Islands. She is the ranking member of the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. Good morning, Congresswoman.
Good morning.
It is so good to have you at the table. Do you want to go or shall I go?
Congresswoman,
I think she's going.
would you just like to respond to Donald Trump? Again, yesterday in Wisconsin, I mean, more racist lies about immigrants in this country. He has posted some of the most vile things consistently on his little social media site. And, you know, I just don't understand how he continues to get away with it.
Well, I think that what he's doing is a distraction, right? He's seen the polls.
The function of racism is distraction.
Well, if Toni Morrison said it, it's got to be true. But it is a distraction. And I think it's to take our minds off of what is actually happening in this country. The policies, what his presidency would actually look like. Project 2025, in all of its grandeur, is really a dictatorship of the United States. And he has seen that it is penetrating in the people's minds. And so he is using this screed of racist tropes, racist remarks, to get people back on track, to pull his base back to where it is, and to have you, all of us, having this discussion about race rather than having a discussion about the things that a second Donald Trump presidency would bring about.
And meanwhile, you have his vice presidential choice, J.D. Vance, attending a town hall meeting yesterday held by a top Christian nationalist leader who promoted election denialism and portrays the current vice president as a demon. Let's listen to J.D. Vance at this event with a white Christian nationalist.
If you go to some of our most distressed communities, if you go to some of the poorest neighborhoods, whether it's Pittsburgh or somewhere else, you see thousands, I'm talking about across our country, thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who desperately need help. And the government right now is more focused on providing help to people who don't have the legal right to be here. That is a broken promise from our government, and we've got to fix that.
This othering of people and casting everyone who's here in this country, particularly if they are of color, as you know, part of the reason our system is broken. This narrative plays over and over and over again. What do you hear amongst your colleagues about when this stuff pops up? I mean, the Congress has an opportunity to do something about all of this, to address this. They had the legislation in front of them. Republicans walked away because the other guy told them, oh, yeah, we need this issue to run on. And yet you have J.D. Vance talking about a broken system that he and his ilk won't fix.
Well, Michael Steele, that's because you're thinking logically.
Okay.
And this is not about
Sunday morning. I'm sorry.
This is not about logic. This is about winning at any cost.
Right.
This is about maintaining power among a few individuals in this country at any cost. And what is always fascinating is those individuals who vote for this against their own interest. They're willing to vote against their own interests if it means that others can be beneath them, whether it's Black people, whether it's Latinas, whatever it may be, so long as they feel empowered by this. And that's the whole premise behind the Great Replacement theory, behind Christian nationalism. And Project 2025 is the amalgamation of all of the policy that's necessary to make that take place. You know, when you listen to Clay Higgins on the House floor, saying he will not take down, I mean, in the kind of kerfuffle that went on to get that man to take that down, kudos kudos to Stephen Horsford for really standing strong. But then when we attempted to censure him, and there is a resolution, there is a bill now to censure Clay Higgins for his incredible racist remarks about Haitians, Steve Scalise objected to it. The Republicans didn't want us to move forward with that censorship. And I think the most important part of Clay Higgins' rant was at the end, where he says, you better get your mind, you thugs better get your minds right and get out of this country by January 20th, which is a reference to the Great Replacement Theory, against mass deportation that Trump has talked about, as well as Project 2025, talking about removing legal immigrants from this country.
You know, you bring up Congressman Project 2025, and I want to pull up this piece from the Huffington Post because we've talked a lot about Project 2025, what it's going to mean for government employees, what it is going to mean for abortion, what it's going to mean for immigration. There is stuff so deep and technocratic in the pages of this document that, as the Huffington Post says, it's a good time to revisit what Project 2025 would mean for hurricane forecasts as we watch our fellow Americans in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, in Florida, in Tennessee reel from Helene. Project 2025 calls for a future Republican administration to break up the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. They say that the agency is causing human-caused climate change, and that to me is sort of just not understanding what these agencies are actually there for. And to your point, I mean, you talked about it demographically, right? The way they use immigration, the way they use some of these issues to fearmonger and to make people feel. This is a geographic reality from much of this country, that these crises are only going to continue to get worse. And you actually want government resources in place to help you and your loved ones prepare.
Sure. I couldn't imagine not having NOAA, not having the Weather Service when my constituents in the Virgin Islands faced Hurricanes Irma and Maria in 2017. That was critical to us being individuals, family members making preparations. The same is through Florida, Louisiana. Listen, even now in Georgia, we're seeing the effect of climate change in everyday lives. And I don't even understand how you could deny it at this point, but it's about taking resources away from the people who are most needed so that resources can be given to individuals like themselves. I can't even, there is no more Republican Party. It is just a far-right group of individuals that are working in their own interests and duping a large portion of the American people.
You know, along those lines, as you say that, it made me think about just this past week in Congress, how Republicans yet again did not have the votes to pass a continuing resolution to keep the government open. And Democrats had to come in yet again and under a clean, what is known as a clean CR, a continuing resolution for the folks at home, meaning there's none of those crazy poison pills in there. It's just
nothing's
straight
added.
up, we're going to fund it. Democrats came in and did that. Yet again, every single member of the House of Representatives is up for re-election this cycle. Do you think that the chaos that has ensued from Capitol Hill to state houses to, you know, white Christian nationalist brunches, apparently, that J.D. Vance likes to attend with the stage, do you think that is connecting to the American people in a way where they're going to send Democrats a House majority next cycle?
Well, I'm prayerful that we're going to have a House majority. And I think that my colleagues, as well as myself, I've got a Republican who loves Trump running against me. We are letting the American people know that having them is chaos. Having them is not a development of your life. This has been the most unproductive Congress in a century, almost. There has not been many bills that have passed. Americans' lives are not getting better. You have individuals like Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and the whole host of wackadoodles that are running the shop right now. And Democrats want to bring order. We want to work with those Republicans that are in hiding right now, fearful of making decisions that are going to be supportive of their constituents.